Did you ever have any, we don't have to get too specific, but did you ever have any where you just really banged your head? Because I have one in particular where I remember the chief marketing officer and I just shouting at each other across a table. And I finally just said, I'm trying to help you. And we ended up shaking hands and walking away going, okay, you know what? Yeah, like we both got a little heated and whatever. But did you ever, have you ever had those moments where it hit a head?
I had somebody walk out of a room with me on me once, like at a super senior level, like direct report to a CEO level, like just slammed his book shut and walked out of the room. Right. And people looked at me like I was dead. And, and he just needed to walk away. And it wasn't, I remember it vividly happening. I don't remember being scared about that happening.
Yeah.
And because this person was actually could be very difficult to work with, but he's also somebody that I convinced to give me $1.5 million off budget to.
That's what. So I was just going to ask,
right?
if going back to your earlier prediction of how that was, I was going to ask if that person ended up also being a person who ironically ended up being a supporter in other areas for almost sometimes the very reason of the thing that made them slam the book and walk out actually was the thing that later made them go, I can trust you because I know you're willing to do that if you really believe that what you're doing is the right thing to do.
Well, or you never have to guess what I think.
Right.
So, so from an order taker perspective, sure, I might take, we all have times we have to sort of take the order.
Yeah, you all have to take one on the nose.
Well, particularly if you're trying to build credibility with somebody.
Right.
But at the same time, you should have a point of view about the order that you've taken. Like a good waiter in a restaurant, when you make a food choice, might say, you sure you don't want the burger? Right? that is, there's value in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that so I think that our relationship, looking back, went in waves of like lots of conflict to lots of harmony, to lots of conflict to lots of harmony.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I wouldn't avoid that person at a cocktail party today. I'd probably go to him and I'd probably give him a hug and we'd probably have a great laugh. And what I would say out of it was we always had the same thing in mind, which was growing the business, because he was in sales. And it was like, we always had the same thing in mind, which was, how do we get the organization even better, even better, even better, even better? And, he had a lot riding on it. My reputation was riding on it. So it was like, okay, we had shared interest. We just would disagree sometimes on the path to get there.
Yeah.
Or on the sort of tactics to take to get there.
Well, and I think that is probably a great message to anybody listening on this is, if you can get unification around that, what are we really trying to solve for? You're going to run into conflict. You're going to run into times where you just see wildly different what the path to accomplish that is. And that's, my experience has been, that's okay. You have to learn how to fight diplomatically. And there are times, to your point, where have to know when you lay down your sword and go, my job is to inform you that this is a risk. And I don't think this is the right path. Ultimately, if what you're saying is do it, I will, follow through on that. But it is my duty to make sure I'm informing you of what you're about to do.
And one of the things I always focused on was either way, my idea, their idea, order taken, or, sort of idea given, was let's prove it first.
Yep.
So let's not go to the whole sales organization and go, right? We know we've framed out what the investment is. We've framed out what the success criteria is. Your idea or my idea. Great. Let's go to Corpus Christi, Texas, test it in that market, and let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Right? Before we invest in my idea, before we invest in your idea,
sure.
Right? We have the success criteria framed out. We're in agreement there. Great. Let's go test and learn someplace first about what works and whether it'll achieve what the outcome is or not. or get us closer or not. And that's how I got money from them, actually. And,
Yep.
data, ringtone and graphics were coming out at the time. And if you can imagine when you used to have to pay
I
for those.
know. I
And,
remember
yeah,
yep.
most people I talk to today, it was before they were born.
No, but I remember you
And
bought all
so,
those things and
yeah, and so we went and tested in Corpus Christi, Texas, a training program on how to suggestive sell, and then we measured the attachment rate, meaning how often customers bought it and that kind of stuff. And it basically increased transactions by like $1.40 a person or something like that, which translated into like $40 million in sales nationally. And so we went to them and said, we think that this is what this could be, but but our original plan was to do this over the next 2 years. And what we said was, we think this is such a big idea that we shouldn't wait 2 years. We should really get this done in the next 6 months. One, technology was moving too fast. Two, if sales are really on the table, why wouldn't we accelerate this thing? And so I said, here's what we need. We need $1.5 million. I know that's a lot of money, but here's what it looks like, and here's what we're going to get. And he's like, well, if I assume you're off by a factor of 10, right, on the $40 million, which you're probably not, maybe you're off by a factor of 5. Would I put $1.5 million against $5 million in incremental sales? That would be a good return. That's a 3 times return. I would take that all day. He's like, so go, right? And so off we went, and it was probably closer to like $24 million in incremental sales.
Still, $24 million return on a $1.5 million investment is a no-brainer.
But it was all test and learn first, right?
Yeah.
So we had to go in.
You don't come in and go, I've got this brilliant idea. I just came out of DevLearn and I saw this thing, and we should totally just dump it on the enterprise.
Exactly.
That doesn't fly well.
Exactly. And it was all in the context of, like, again, driving a business metric and a business outcome more than it was sort of advancing the L&D narrative.
Okay. I like that. I think something else